It's time for American Brain and Brawn, starring John Brinkus and Lacey Evans.
Hey everybody, look who it is. It's Lacey Evans.
Oh, Lord,
hello,
would you
Lacey
look
Evans.
at me. Hi, you nasty thing. How are you, John?
You know what? Very few people have called me a nasty thing, but I'm going to take it from you.
Well, you don't have a choice, sweetheart.
That's right. Well, welcome everybody to our first edition of American Brain and Brawn. I am John Brinkus. Across from me is Lacey Evans, the beautiful, the Southern sassy belle, the Southern belle, Lacey Evans. Look at you.
Hello.
So this show is all about brain. It's all about brawn. It's all about being positive. It's about overcoming adversity. It's about really using your head, using your muscles, just figuring out a way to get yourself out of a tough situation, to pick yourself up when you're down. We're here to lift spirits, not to put anybody down. Lacey Evans, there's no one better in the world who knows how to get up than you. Look at how beautiful you look in that amazing yellow hat. I mean, first of all, how did you choose that hat for the debut show?
Oh, this whole thing. Well, my favorite color is yellow. Speaking of picking yourself up, yellow, the color yellow has always been a color therapy motivator for me. I'm sure we'll get into that in future episodes, but life sucks. It's hard sometimes, and you got to do little things to keep yourself going. And these cute little outfits just make me feel like I'm on top of my game no matter what happens, honey.
Well, I'll tell you what, as I was picking out a shirt to wear, I think that this shirt really, I mean, I don't want to state the obvious, but my eyes are just, they're piercing.
The only thing piercing is that shirt color, sweetheart. You could have done a little bit better, but you know what? We're going to be working together, entertaining and uplifting all you nasty things out there. And I'll work on your wardrobe and your decisions as we go, honey. Don't worry about it. I'm here for you.
That's right. That's right. So if for our debut episode, you know, what we want to do is we want to bring on people. We want to exchange stories. We want to talk about, you know, overcoming and rising up and being positive. And I asked Lacey, I said, who should we have on for our very first guest? And Lacey went down a list, and a list a mile long. He said, you know what? I know exactly the perfect guest to be our very first guest. And Lacey, give a little backstory about our very special guest today.
All right. This person is near and dear to my heart, especially in WWE as a sports entertainer, as a mentor, as someone who has been through a hell of a lot, and still as a father, as, like I said, as a mentor, as a producer, as somebody who is there to not only be there as a father and as a strong human being, but uplift others and do what he can to reach down and pick up that next person, and somebody who I just really think highly of. And that is none other. Can I go ahead and say his name?
You can.
Yvonne Dudley. Testify, honey.
Oh, my sister, testify. You know, I've never had an introduction like that, and that happens to be one of the greatest ones that I think in the 28-year career history that I've ever had. So, Lacey, I want to say thank you. You are truly a true Southern belle and a Georgia peach.
Oh, okay. Tell me something I don't know, honey.
That's pretty awesome. So, Devon, tell me this: where are you calling in from today?
Well, I'm coming from home in my son's room. So if I happen to go to the left or to the right, which I'm trying not to, he's got posters of kittens up. So, so I had to use his room. Oh, forget it. My house is a madhouse. But I'm out of Florida, Melbourne, Florida. And, I've been here ever since the start of my career in WWE. Originally from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised, just down the block from the Barclays Center, where I've performed many a times, but now a producer for WWE. And now I'm producing shows at the Barclays Center. And, of course, all over where the WWF goes.
That's awesome. So, Devon, are you sure that's not your room? I mean, I would pick you as a guy with pictures of kittens and purple LED lights.
Listen, I would agree with that 100% if I was single, but my wife would never let that happen in my room.
Singles. That is awesome. So I know, Lacey, you guys have a very special relationship, and you're telling me, I mean, story after story about Devon and why he's so special. Share with the audience what makes him such an incredible human.
I mean, coming into this business right off the jump without any past history, I wasn't a fan of WWE. I came in here, just to get into my childhood, a rough upbringing, and I really didn't know anything about anything. And right off the jump, he never judged that. You know what I mean? He did everything he could to ensure that. And because I showed my work ethic, he freaking, put his hand out and lifted me up and continues to do everything he can. And I see it across the board with everybody within WWE to uplift them. And no matter a bad match, a good match, a hard day, he can see when somebody's down or when a certain thing has gotten to him. And it's just more personal. I mean, he's a father figure, honestly, to me, because as a mother myself who has to leave their children, and, it's just somebody that I can look at and I know when he's having a bad day, but he continues to show up, not only do the best he can as a producer with WWE to put on these shows and these matches, but he takes time out, even as a father, even as a husband, leaving his family, going on the road and doing what he does to ensure that his peers, his younger freaking subordinates underneath him are okay. And I take that personal because being a Marine, we had a lot of higher ups, so chain of command, people that were in charge of us that made sure that they took their time out, no matter what they were going through, no matter the kids they were leaving behind, the spouses they were leaving behind, to look around and make sure everybody was okay. And Devon has always done that for me, even at airports at 3 a.m. in the morning, tired as hell, going on to the next show. You could tell it, hey, you want a coffee? Let's go. Let's rock. And he's always been that way. And I love him. I love him to death.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
very much, Lacey. Well, it's a pleasure and an honor because, I look at it like this. I know what it's like coming up in this business. I wasn't a second generation wrestler. I came in here blind. I came in here not knowing what to expect. I came in this business only to go by what I seen on TV. And if what people should know is that what you see on TV is really not the real world of pro wrestling. I mean, we put on a great show. We go out there and do what we do. And we make the fans, the younger fans, look at our business and go, man, I want to be a real fan of this business. But behind the scenes, I don't think a lot of people know how hard it is for what we have to go through to get to the level that we're at. And I think that's the most important thing. Once you get to that level, you understand what you went through and what you had to do to get there. And with so many people such as Lacey and this new generation of WWE superstars, I pretty much know a lot of their shortcomings. I know a lot of what they did to get to where they are. And it's like, once they get there, you have to learn how to stay there. Well, it's guys like me who have been there, who've been on top for my whole career, basically. And to show these guys how to do that, how to stay on top, how to keep yourself relevant, how not to have the fans just get tired of you and throw you to the side. It's our job as past performers to be able to pass the torch and help the younger generation out.
One of the things that impresses me the most about the WWE is that each person, right, is really revered, like really given a shot at sharing, not only their brawn, but their brain. Like it's part of the gig that you guys have is being really smart, and the audience knowing you have to be sharp. You got to be quick. You can't just being physically gifted isn't enough in the WWE. You also have to be really smart.
Well, I think, you hit the nail right on the button there. It just can't be the looks. It can't be the strength. You have to have the brain as well to know, because I'm going to tell you this. You can ruin yourself in this business more by doing things outside the business that don't go with the way we do business here. That can ruin you quick, as opposed to what you do in the ring. You have to know in and out of the ring how to act, not only to perform in the ring to give your best, but how do you conduct yourself as an individual outside of that? You have to know the proper etiquette and how to, again, survive, longevity, things of that nature. You have to be able to do that. For those that have come before me, I took the time in the very beginning of my career to sit down, keep my mouth shut, open my ears and open my eyes and learn. And I think that's what a lot of the younger generation has to understand. You have to do that. But remember, do it with people that have been successful and have been some places, not the ones that try to do it but never made it.
Yeah. Lacey, you've talked about Devon when you and I were talking pre-show. You know, you said one of the things that impressed you the most was none of us on this discussion, Devon, Lacey, and myself, none of us come from privileged backgrounds where like we had a silver spoon in our mouth and everything was handed to us. And Lacey, especially when you were talking about coming into the WWE, it was such a foreign world to you that you needed someone like Devon to say, hey, here's how you do it. Here's how you succeed in not only in this profession, but in life. And talk about how important it was for you to have someone who was a mentor who could take you under their wing and guide you, because people really sort of undervalue how important it is to find somebody like Devon in their life.
Right. And back to the brain thing real quick, because you have to have the brains to actually listen to men like him. Because I mean, yes, you're right. I came straight in from Marine Corps. I was a sergeant. I was active duty, and where you do shut up and you do your job, and but we're hard chargers. We're motivated, and we sometimes say things that others might take not too lightly, but we just bust through doors and we come in kicking in and screaming. And I can honestly say on a personal level, that's one thing Devon Dudley has taught me. There has been, he's laughing because he knows there's been times where even with our boss, I come in here thinking like chain of command, like if you got a problem, you freaking like, hey, sir, this is freaking Sergeant Estrella and I got blah, blah, blah. That you don't do that here. And Devon was quick to snatch me up, almost literally and say, hey, Lacey, come here. And I'm like, oh, what happened? I was about to walk in this door, speak with Mr. Vince McMahon. And he caught me quick. And now a few times, and coming from being a wife, being a mom, I've got luggage on my back. My daughter is freaking homeschooled. We're traveling the world. I mean, I'm sitting on the plane next to Devon Dudley and we're talking about life. We're talking about family. We're talking about how we want this career. We want to be successful. And I'm explaining, but I have this title of WWE superstar, and I have the title of a mother. And my baby's back there, reading her studies now. I've got a title of a wife, and I'm got to feed my husband tonight, but I also have this show. And Devon has always been motivated, but also letting me know the ins and outs of the business, because you have to be able to juggle and take all of those titles and do them equally. And he was quick to tell me, like, don't forget that you're also a WWE superstar, that you have these brothers and sisters traveling the world with you. And like, you've got to let them in, and I was always just so focused. So he continues to lead me in this game and has opened my eyes to a lot of things. Like I said, stopped me from kicking in the wrong doors a couple times. But it's something I'm completely thankful for. I'm motivated. I work hard, but he makes sure that it goes along with the etiquette of this job that we're in. And I'm very grateful to have him.
Hey, Devon, this is what I'd love to hear from you. Tell me about your background and how far you actually have come. Like where did you grow up? What was the surrounding, and how blessed, you are such a blessed man. I want to hear about your journey and what were those points along the way where just being an incredible athlete like yourself just wasn't enough. You had to figure your way out of a situation to get yourself to the next level.
Absolutely. I'm come from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised in the projects, actually. Again, right down the block from the Barclays Center. And, my mother was pregnant at 15. She had me at 16. My dad really wasn't in the picture. He basically was, out there doing his thing. And my grandmother, who was the fist of the family, she was the one that put everything that made me who I am today. She's the woman that put that drive in me to go and do better. Growing up in the projects was very, very rough during that time. In 1983, when crack first hit the scene and it ran through the projects like crazy, my grandmother saw fit to get me out of there and to basically go to school in Long Island, spend time with my aunt and uncle. And what I would do is I would go to school Monday through Friday in Long Island and then come back home to Brooklyn on the weekends, holidays, and summer vacations. And so with that being said, it was because of her guiding me and getting me out of that element, which really, really helped me. A lot of my friends back then were either getting in trouble with the law, going to jail, or even, unfortunately being killed because of the choices that they made. And because of the fact that I always believed that at the age of 12, you know the difference between right and wrong. And I think the Bible says it best. You are responsible for your own decision making when you're at the age of 12. And I learned it at an early age. Both of my parents, my stepfather, I should say, not my biological, my stepfather and my mother were both preachers, which is where the testify and the reverend all came from. And so since then, I've been testifying ever since I was a little kid. I was a preacher's kid. Sometimes they say that the preacher's kids are the worst. And that can be the case in some aspects. But with me, my mother thought she was Mike Tyson. So even though she was the woman of the cloth, being a reverend, she still thought she was going to make boxing history if I got out of line. So she didn't play. So it was like, again, it was rough, but we made it. And in my acceptance speech that I had made when I got put into the Hall of Fame, it was almost like the television show, the old show, The Jeffersons. We came from nothing, but we came out of that and made something out of ourselves. It was very, very rough. And again, I can't stress how bad at sometimes it really was, but we made it through. I had a chance to play for Florida A&M. I had a 4-year scholarship, and I passed it up to do pro wrestling. You see, as good as I thought I was in football, I felt that there was always people better. And that, yes, I was on the high school level and I was making, rounds and making people wake up and take attention for me. But at the same token, I didn't have that drive. I didn't have that fury like I had for pro wrestling. And growing up in the projects, Hulk Hogan, was a man that I idolized and grew up watching. And so I always wanted to be, amongst those guys, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Ted DiBiase, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Andre the Giant. The list goes on and on. I always wanted to be a part of the WW back then F. And that was my goal. And so even at the age of 6 and 7, when I first laid eyes on the WWF back then, it was called, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I passed up the scholarship to Florida A&M, and I decided to go ahead and pursue my career with Johnny Rodz, which is a Hall of Famer himself, out of Brooklyn, New York, Gleason's Gym, which I'm glad to say he still runs today. But I learned a lot from Johnny Rodz. I learned how to conduct myself in and out of the ring. I learned how to wrestle. I learned how to grapple. During the off season of football, when I was in high school, I played basketball. But now I regret it because the first thing Johnny taught me was the amateur background. And I wish that I would have wrestled back in high school. But I was able to do that during my training with Johnny Rodz. And then next thing you know, I spent 5.5 years going through so much. I got married. I had my twin boys, Terrence and Terrell, who are now following me in the business. I was about 23 when I had them. But at 18 years of age, I was going back and forth to Johnny Rodz' school. And a kid, that, again, from Brooklyn, New York, who didn't have anything, traveling up and down the subway systems of New York City, 45 minutes to about 2 hours in some aspects, trying to get to Gleason's Gym. to be trained by Hall of Famer Johnny Rodz, and then having to take the train system coming all the way back. I had 3 jobs. People used to tell me that I was a disgruntled postal worker because I worked for the post office.
Devon, I have a question.
Sure.
So it just hit me. You mentioned something about 12 years old, and I take this personal because I can agree. I've never heard anybody ever say this as well. I get asked a lot coming from what I've been through in my life. How did you make it? How did you end up the way that you are? Considering your circumstances, considering what was around you all the time. And my question for you is, you were just saying at 18 years old, you're still young. You're catching bus after bus in order to train. You don't see that in a lot of young adults nowadays. What do you think it was? So like for me, it was I stayed busy. I stayed in sports. I made sure my mind was always active in something. Sports, school, and there was still all that negative going around me. There was still all the drugs, all the anger, the depression, the bad, but I continued to still show up. I continued to still go to my sports practice. Like I said, even before I had a ride, even if I didn't have a ride home, and I just stayed busy. So for everybody out there listening right now, because like I said, life's hard. And like, there are people like you and I that go through hell and look at us now, we made it. What do you think it was? At what decision, what inside of you, what did you do in order to continue and not end up like that?
My brother, my half brother, who followed in my biological father's footsteps, was killed. He was killed. A machine gun. Excuse me, the lights are going out here. Machine gun was emptied in his back. He was one of the biggest drug dealers in Harlem, New York, and I do remember when he was first started in the game. He was very successful at it, of course, with some drug dealers, that winds up happening. But then you're faced with what happens when people turn on you and the loyalty is not there. He was shot 7 times and survived and swore that he would never go back to that game again.
Wow.
And then sure enough, he went back, and ultimately the second time it cost him his life. The thing that got me was, I remember before I got that phone call, it had to be a couple of weeks or a couple of months before that I wanted to reconnect with him because we had lost contact. So I wanted to reconnect with him, and I was going to call him and say, hey, I'm your brother, let's do this. Let's reconnect. Let's do it, because we lost touch. And then, the unfortunate was I got the phone call later that he was killed. And again, his whole crew turned on him just for the simple fact that they were fighting for position and wanting to take his spot. From that point on, I said I wasn't going to let the cycle continue, that I was going to stop it where it stood, right there. And that I was going to make my grandmother and my mother proud, and said I wasn't going to go in that game. You see, here's the deal. Some people grow up like you and I in certain circumstances, and they are put through some trials and tribulations. But the thing is, even though you're put through those trials and tribulations, that doesn't mean you fall victim to the circumstances that are in front of you. You have to learn to pick yourself up.
Honey.
You have to learn to go out there and to do what you have to do to make your own legacy and to be proud. And once that happened, that turned my life 10 times. There was a point in time when my first wife and I were going through some struggles, and we separated, and my boys were born. And I think about we had separated, and I think it was about the first month after the twins were born. And then we got back together like 3 months later. I remember giving up pro wrestling, not wanting to come in and do it anymore, because I wanted that. We like to call it the microwave generation. Nobody wants to put in time, and nobody wants to go in there and do the hard work. They want it fast, you know? Well, I was at that point wanting to be able to be a part of that microwave generation, because I wanted it fast. And when it didn't work, I was ready to give it up. One day I held my sons in my hands, and as I'm rocking both of them, because they were twins, they happened to look up at me with those eyes, and something melted in my body. Something just went, this is it. And when I looked at them, I told them, I said, boys, and as I'm rocking them in my arm, I said, boys, I am not going to, number one, be a statistic. Number two, I am not going to follow in the same footsteps as my biological father. I'm going to make you boys proud, and I guarantee you, your father will make it in this business. And
Hell
what I
yeah.
did was I went back to Johnny Rogers' school. He said, welcome back. I said, thank you. I busted my butt for about 6 months to a year after leaving for about 5 months. And finally, he came back and said, what do you think about ECW? And I just said, well, those people are crazy. They use barbed wire bats and tables and things.
Sign me up, honey.
Yeah, but at that point, that was exactly what I said. Inside my head, I didn't want to say that out loud. But, for the most part, I said, sign me up. I said, I'll do it. And, they made the phone call to Taz and Tommy Dreamer, and the rest is history. But at those moments that I had just described, that's what got me where I wanted to be. That's what put me on the track. I thank God for my grandmother. I thank God for my kids, because you, Lacey, without them being in your life, it's almost impossible for you to think that they would not have been there to help you get to where you need to be. They are the ones that are pushing you. They are the ones that you want to make sure that when they look at you in your eyes, that they are proud to say that you are their parent. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. And, I call that finding your why. Me and you are very family driven, right? Those long nights at the airports when we're catching those flights and life is hard and you're rocking your babies and you're looking at them, that moment, and I'm speaking for you, but you found your why, what drives you. And I actually talked with Justin, one of my good friends, about motivation and just staying motivated, positive, and driven. And you just sometimes in life, whether you got kids or not, and John, I don't know what your why is. What makes you wake up in the morning, drink your coffee, and say, look, this is the shit I got to get done today. And I'm going to get it no matter what. Whatever that why is, that first thought you think of. For me and Devon, it sounds like it's our family. It sounds like it's our kids. And it's different from different people. But everybody listening, find your why and think about it just for a minute before you start your day, and guarantee you're going to be more productive than you have ever been. I firmly believe it.
Lacey, I will say this. Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I will say this. One of the sayings that I always say that I think is relevant, not only in this interview now, but just life in general. If you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail.
I'm writing that down, honey.
There you go. If you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail. You have to do what you have to do. That once you have a set goal on what you want to do in life, you have to prepare yourself to make that goal happen. You cannot wait for people to do it for you. You cannot wait for people to hand you things. You have to go out there and reach it. You, my friend, have to testify.
Hell yeah. That's our saying for this episode. Okay, it is. If you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail. You nasties, remember that, honey, because that is motivating.
Absolutely. And that's the thing.
Incredible. I mean, it's just incredible, sitting back, listening to you guys of how you made it. And I mean, we're not talking about just making it, getting a job. You guys made it to the WWE and are both just giant superstars coming from, backgrounds where, look, the deck is stacked against you. And what's interesting is a lot of people feel like, wow, I was dealt a bad hand. I'm here to tell you on American Brain and Brawn, everybody is dealt a hand that becomes difficult to deal with. Do you know the number of stories of people who are born into a privileged lifestyle and then they completely go off the rails? Then you find people who are born with nothing and they become superstars. Like, how do we possibly explain that? To me, it's all about being held accountable on a daily, hourly, minute by minute basis. When you asked Lacey about, well, what's your why? Obviously, my family is my why. My God is my why. But most importantly, what I want to be able to do is to say, I'm doing my best. And my best is being kind, loving, spreading positive energy, and using the talent and gift that God gave me to just do good in the world, to spread a positive message. That's all I can do is to perpetuate love. And when you think about it, as corny as it sounds, of like, look, the greatest law of all is love one another. That's a simple phrase. Truly loving means no matter who you connect with, no matter who you bump into, treat them as an equal. love them. Go out of your way. Being mean is easy. Being nice, it takes a little bit more effort. And that's the way that I think we're set up to succeed, is that God, and whatever religion you are, the universe wants us to lift each other up. And if you didn't have your grandmother, Devon, where would you be? She lifted you up.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. And she was the fist of the family. It's one, like I said, and and I just want to make, this evident too, is that I am very, very biblical. I'm very, very a spiritual person. And I believe without the grace of God, there would be no Devon Dudley. There would be no anything that I have ever, tried to do in life. I am very, very proud to say that I am a God-fearing man. And I definitely feel that without my Savior, without him being in my corner, helping me, even through my trials and tribulations, people have to understand one thing. Even when I'm going through my trials and tribulations, yes, I call on him. When I'm going through good times, I still talk to him and call. Not just when I need him, when something goes wrong, but I thank him when things go right. I am more talking to him when things go right than I am when things go bad, because I want him to know that I'm not just calling on him when things go bad, but I want to thank him for what he's done. This career, this home that I live in, this lifestyle, the fans that still after all of these years are in my corner. It's through the grace of God that I am sitting here right now being able to, and I quote, testify.
Hell yeah, Devon. Tell them. Tell all of them.
That's the only way I know how to do it. That's the only way I've been doing it, is just being testifying. And, again, it's just one of those things where I've said this to many people on how I feel and how my life is. God comes first, my family is second, and then me. I put myself last every single time because I don't feel that I'm on this earth to try to do something for me. I feel like I'm on this earth to help those who are in need.
What a man.
I mean, those words are just incredible. Lacey, when you and I first met, we were doing Salute Across America, and you were telling so many incredible stories. And for you, when you got into the military, and then you did not say, "Here's my plan in life. I'm gonna join the military, be a Marine, and I'm gonna get out and be a WWE superstar." Something happened along the way that intervened and kind of sent you down this road that you never thought was possible. And Devon, there was just no way when you were 12 years old that everything was laid out for you perfectly fine and you knew exactly what was going to happen. Those intervening moments in life, it takes brains to recognize them. That it takes a real intellect to say, the universe is conspiring for me to succeed right now. I need to seize the day. Those moments are so key. And as you said, if we don't look at life as though it's a tapestry of options and opportunities, if we're not ready for it, it can pass us by. We can mess it up. That's the great lesson, is that we have free will. God gave us free will, and we can literally say, "Nah, I'm not going to do that," and miss the train.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to be ready for anything. And it doesn't matter what you believe in, if it's God, if it's, like Devon said, he's saying all this religion and what he turns to. But also, you just have to be present. And he said multiple times, his family, what makes you tick? What is your why? And once you know that, once you know why you're motivated, then it's making sure to stay present. And when those opportunities come, you're more likely to be ready for them. I had no idea. I'm in here with this big old hat looking classy and sassy as ever. I was shooting a weapon 5 years ago, honey, completely covered in CLP and freaking dirt. But here I am freaking with American Brain and Brawn, bringing motivation and passion and uplifting those who need it. But you know what? That opportunity came and I was ready because I never allowed my circumstance to make me a victim. Those cards were dealt to me, yes. But here's the kicker. You're going to get cards dealt to you. You can't handle that, or you can't change that, right? But you get to decide what game you play. And I learned that really young in life. I was dealt certain cards and I was fine with it. I took a deep breath and I freaking played the game that I wanted to play. And that is what I continue to do. I take it one day at a time, and I freaking realize my why. And I drink strong coffee, take some deep breaths, and one foot in front of the other. Make a plan, have goals in little steps until you get there. That's the best. That's all you really can do.
You know what? Some of the things that you are saying, Lacey, are, again, so true. You know, you and I have similar backgrounds. You and I have gone through what we've gone through. And one of the biggest things, I have a wrestling school in Winter Park, actually right down the block from the PC. And
Right.
it's called now Devon Dudley Academy. And, you know, this is what I tell my students. You know, I'm not just teaching them wrestling moves. I'm not just teaching them psychology. I'm teaching them life, because just like I had to go through some things leading up to me going to ECW, and then from ECW to WWE, and then from WWE to Japan, and then Japan right back to the WWE. They need to know all those trials and tribulations that I had went through. Every hurdle that you jump, you have to keep jumping them, because those hurdles are not going to go away. Those hurdles are going to keep going, and you got to keep jumping them and jumping them. In the movie Rocky, where my character comes from, Mr. T, in Rocky 3, but in the last Rocky movie, he said it best. He said, it's not how many times you get knocked down, but it's how many times you get knocked down, but you keep getting back up. So no matter, even however success that you're in, you're going to get knocked down. There were many a times where Devon Dudley and the Dudley boys, okay, were knocked down. And I mean knocked down. It looked like it was the end. But we kept getting back up, and we kept doing it. And I kept praying and giving it to God. There's a saying in the church, let go and let God. And
Yep.
that's exactly what I do. And I cannot help it when I say that. When I let go and let God and stop trying to do things on my own, that's when it works. You see, the older saying goes, he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time.
Oh, I love it.
It's incredible. It's amazing. Devon, we're getting ready to wrap up here, but before we end this episode, you know, there are a lot of people out there right now looking for those, you know, looking for that one piece of advice. And you've given about 20 pieces of advice in this episode that everybody can really hold on to. I'm looking for, you know, it's interesting because you can understand when people get frustrated, when people get down, you can understand that, and you're not human unless you feel some sort of friction in life. But that friction in life is something that actually makes you feel alive. And what we need to know about that friction is you're going to come out of one side or the other. And that is the truth. When I keep saying that, it's in your control. When people are saying, nah, but my situation, I'm different. I'm not Devon Dudley. I'm not that guy. I always say to them, you're right. You're you. You can do it. You can rise above, and you can go this way instead of that way, no matter what's dealt your way. What's the one piece of advice that you would tell somebody? Listen, even though things seem crazy, just keep this one thought in mind.
Don't put your trust in man. Don't put your trust in anyone else. You put your trust in God. You keep doing what you're doing, and you keep the faith. That's the thing. Because faith ain't something that it always has to go your way. Faith ain't something that has to be where if it doesn't go your way, you're just going to quit and stop. No, you've got to go through those trials and tribulations. That's what faith is all about. Because when the storm comes, you have to know that there's going to be sunshine and there's going to be light at the end of that. And that's what's going to bring you through all the heartache, all the triumph, all the tribulations. That's what's going to do it for you. God is your answer. Whether you want to be in a biblical state or not, just understand that the storm is not going to last forever. You're going to have to go through those trials and tribulations, because that's what's going to make you the individual you are. Because once you get past that, once you move on, and now once you start to see that light, that's when the person that you become starts coming out and starts to shine.
Unreal.
Hell yeah.
Lacey, when I said to you who should be our first guest, you were pretty darn passionate.
What I
For a
tell
good
you, he's
reason.
been through some things, man. When this shall pass, because I tell you what, those storms he's talking about, they're gonna come. They're gonna come. It doesn't matter if you're a WWE superstar. It doesn't matter if you're working at Subway at 15, 16 years old, because I was there. Doesn't matter if you're sleeping in your car in the back of a Walgreens parking lot, because I was there. It doesn't matter if you're joining the United States Marine Corps at 19 years old, because you don't know what else to do in life, because it is so hard and you're lost completely. But this too shall pass. Those storms and that rainbow that's going to come at the end is going to make you stronger and tougher and ready for anything. Because one thing, I don't care where my career takes me. I don't care if I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame, if I'm going to be a SmackDown champion, Raw champion. I know what hell is. I know what tough times are. I know what it feels like to have nothing and be at rock bottom. But you know what? Because I've been there, I know that I can get back up, and there is nothing that can keep me down. So no matter what comes in my life, it don't matter if there's storms, hell, rain, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to get back up. So enjoy those storms, honey, because I love my rainbows, but there's nothing that I can't take because I know what I've been through. And so look at it like that. Look at the positive, because there's always positive, even in the worst negatives.
Testify. Testify.
Woo!
Getting me all
God.
sweating here. I don't like the sweat, honey.
Well, listen, everybody. Devon Dudley, you are one of a kind. I mean, Lacey Evans,
Thank
come
you.
on. I mean, incredible. We could not have been more blessed to have Devon join us for the first guest on American Brain and Brawn. Want to thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. You are an incredible athlete. Most importantly, you are one smart human.
Very.
Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure being on this show. When Lacey asked me, before she could even finish it, I said, "You got me." I said, "You got me. You ain't got to." Although she messed with me a little bit.
Yeah, I did.
Emojis and all of that leading up to it. I just finally said, I ain't texting her no more. I told my wife, I said, I'm calling her. I said, what are you trying to get me into?
Well, you see, I wanted him as the first one. American Brain and Brawn, we're all about motivation. We're all about passion and uplifting. And I'll say it again. There was some tired nights at the airports, and I'm learning this business, and I didn't even know if I'm doing it good enough. And this man has called me over and said, and he didn't care about my match. He asked how my husband was. He asked how my daughter was. He asked about my family. And I'll never forget that, man. I mean, he is caring, he's uplifting, he's passionate, he's motivated. And I'm sure he's going to kick my ass on Friday at SmackDown, making sure I'm doing what I need to do, because he's just driven and he's passionate. And I couldn't have picked a better person for our first episode. Thank you so much, Devon.
Well, thank you guys, and congratulations on your first episode. Very happy to be a part of it. Much success in the near future.
Thank you, Devon.
All right. Thank you guys so much. And listen, everyone, listen to Devon. Keep the faith. God bless you all. We'll be back next Wednesday. Make sure you check Lacey Evans's Facebook page for updates. We'll have guests. We'll have times. We'll be here every week.
Don't be late, you nasties, because you're going to learn lots and lots. Lot that you need. You need it.
God bless. Devon. Keep the faith. Keep the faith. God bless you all. God bless you all. We'll be back Wednesday. Make sure you check Lacey Evans's Facebook page for updates. We'll have guests. We'll have times. We'll be here every week.
Don't be late, you nasty.